CEO of Banyan Risk Group. So to amplify on the question I asked the former prime minister, Hamas does not wear uniforms. They don't carry dog tags. How do you go into Gaza and know who is sympathetic to Hamas and who is not?
Well, that's a great question, John. And as you know, Israel has a very robust intelligence capability. And while they got caught a little bit flat-footed with the South and the attack, they will be catching up very quickly. And the first thing they will be looking to do is build an operations and intelligence integrated picture. And knowing what's going on the ground by building out those networks, that's going to be the first step. They already have they've known their neighbors. They've dealt with this before. This size and scale is definitely new. But again, by needing to advance and get on the ground within Gaza, that's where they're going to gain the biggest intelligence picture. And the challenge is, with these tunnels, we're looking at a very complicated structure where getting a hold and finding and rescuing those hostages will be tough. It's similar to what we've seen while we've tracked hostage rescues around the world for the United States. This is an evolving picture where it changes dramatically fast. Typically, they're moved, they're separated, they're isolated. And so doing that, getting into Gaza, building that network, interrogating and negotiating with whoever on the ground is, that's going to be what's going to give them the picture.
Clearly, Hamas expected there would be a ground invasion of Gaza as a result of that barbaric attack that they launched. Is the taking of hostages part of their insurance, do you think, to try to limit Israel's response?
I don't think it's designed to limit the response. I think everyone knows when Israel is attacked, they respond very strongly. I think that the challenge is for Hamas is they can't sustain a full-on war. So in attacks prior, they've launched rockets, thousands of rockets, and they deplete their resources. They typically respond by getting supply chain involved with smuggling weapons in. It takes a year to 2 years from the stockpile. They launch an attack and then they go. So right now they've launched somewhere around 6,000 rockets. And so the hostages is really another tool for them to leverage in negotiations for what they're trying to push Israel to do.
The United States obviously has hostages there. President Biden says, there are no limits on what our response might be. Would you advocate sending in special operators to rescue American hostages, or do we need solid information on where they are first?
So I absolutely need the right information. It is very strongly likely that our operators are already working hand in hand, and our planning capabilities are working with the Israeli forces. That has been the case. We've had partnerships with them a long time, cross-training at high levels within special operations, sharing a lot of tactics, techniques, and procedures along the way. So they are a very capable force for their own hostage rescue capability. I have no doubt that we are in lockstep with them, monitoring the situation for our specific interests. As we've seen with Somali terrorists that take over maritime vessels and they continue to consolidate hostages together, it makes it very difficult for someone to conduct a rescue that has other international interests. So when we've seen them as hostage takers are typically isolated and separated by groups, people, sizes, kids, women, elderly, that kind of thing. But I think where we are right now in the evolving place, I have no doubt that we're advising them at a very close level, and we'll watch in the days to come as this comes back to us.
But again, I have to assume that Hamas expected an invasion. Are you fearful that there are going to be booby traps, unexpected kinds of attacks that they have prepared, just knowing that the Israelis are coming?
Yeah, similarly to the way Iran helped train the Iraqis as far as when we were there in combat. In about 2006, 7, and 8, we started to see a trend in Iraq where walls were booby-trapped, doors were booby-trapped. We saw in the bin Laden raid that there were false doors, false everything. So there is no doubt that Hamas they have long-term planning capability. They probably were trained significantly by Hezbollah, who typically takes a significant amount of hostages, and Iran as well as for technology and capability. But there is no doubt that those tunnels are a very big danger point, likely booby trap, likely they have power and lighting running in them, but they also have bunkers and sustainability. So this is a very dangerous thing for them to navigate. And so getting on the ground and seeing what the picture is and determining that is going to be the most critical thing. But you also have to remember that out of this 150 hostages, there's women and children that also don't have water, medicine, food. So time is of the essence. And as we've seen with any hostage rescue, the first 24 to 48 hours is critical. And that's that's why I think you're seeing Israel move at the speed that they are.
Yeah, well, we are already way beyond that. David Dezso, we have to say goodbye. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for having me, John.
You bet. So as war